Hello, everybody. I'm Gabriel Balin, product manager for LIMSABC, and today I'm gonna go over the LIMSABC Biorepository module. The Biorepository module allows you to store samples and track the location of every sample that you have in the lab. The biorepository allows you to store those samples and track the type of container those samples are, if they're in different tubes or other type of containers that you can place samples such as cups. Allows you to track where those containers tubes go in which racks. We call them storage boxes, and then you can track where those storage boxes would go in the different locations that you have, being freezers, going into the different freezer rooms, the buildings, and so on. LIMS allows you to define a very configurable and flexible location system. With that, I'm going to switch to the application, and I'm going to show some of the most basic configuration and then go into the actual biorepository. So for the configuration, LIMSABC allows you to restrict the samples and the containers that those samples can go into, and then it also allows to restrict the actual containers in what storage boxes they can go. This is so you can avoid misplacing samples in the wrong place, and then taking it a little further, we can restrict those storage boxes in what storage devices that they can go. So that means it helps you avoid storing, for example, cassettes with slides in freezers, right? Or storing samples, blood samples that are supposed to go in the freezer, storing them at the room temperature. So with that, I'm going to go first into the material application and show you some of the configuration we have there. I'm going to start and looking for the sample containers. The sample containers are pretty much the type of tubes that the sample can go into. Now, I'm saying tubes for blood and liquids, but can be any type of container where you can put the samples in, right? So in this place, in this way, you can define all of the different ways samples are being actually um, hold it together. Going into one of these, let's say I go to the SST. In this one, then you can see the different sample types that can be placed into this particular tube, right? So I can only put serum in this sample container. If I go to lavender tube, I have more sample types here that I can place in the lavender tube. I can put a blood, a serum, and a whole blood. So this is the very first step, the very first configuration, having the sample types, having the sample containers in which those samples can go. The next thing I'm going to go to the storage boxes and now show how the restrictions of those sample containers happens in which of these storage boxes they can go. And I'm gonna go to the small box here, and this is a 10 by 10 box, but you can define any kind of boxes, any sizes that you have to actually be able to track the position of those tubes in the box. So going to the small box here, I can define sample containers that can go into this box, and can also specify in which location types this box can go into. And I'm gonna show you quickly how to define these location types. But this is a configuration to specify that, hey, a blood sample can go into a lavender tube can go into a small box, and a small box can be stored in different location types. So you have those restrictions and those checks and balances to make sure you don't store the samples in a proper way. Going to the um, location types. This is where you define the different types of locations you have. So here I have the freezers, the building, the -80 freezers, room, shelves, racks, and so on. And this is something that you can add whatever structure you have in the lab. That's fine. We can definitely support that. You also have an icon, and this will help you identify that in Biorepository. And on these locations, you can specify, like I mentioned, what kind of boxes you can have. So in my shelf on this particular uh, um, location type, I can actually store small transfer medium boxes and large boxes, right? So it helps you restrict, and it helps you set it up so that the users don't accidentally make any mistakes. Now, defining the actual locations, it is pretty straightforward. So we have these location types. Now going and defining the locations, like I said, it provides with a very flexible location, and you can create any type of structure that you have. It can go from your lab, which is this one in case, to my uh, um, freezer room, and then to the different freezer shelves. And if we need to go to towers and so on, all of that can be configured here. And on each of these locations, there are different parameters that you can set, such as the who's the parent, obviously. Let me go here on a shelf. Who's the parent, which is in my freezer, the name of it, the type. If it's storable, meaning you can actually place samples directly. You can place samples in this one, like on containers, boxes, and so on. The capacity, so this allows you to specify how many samples can go into this one. Zero means unlimited, but you can restrict, so then you can make sure you don't run over your capacity. In transit, this is designated for if you have trucks or other vehicles where you can keep samples in transit. The service group who owns this particular location, the temperature, and the status of it, right? And this is just informational for users to know. And you can go as low as you need. If I need to go in and add under the shelf, add additional sub locations, I can just add child level here, and I can add location as well. We have additional functionality to copy and clone locations. So if you define a freezer, then you can copy, you can clone it, and have multiple freezers with the same structure. So you don't have to define, let's say you have 20 freezers, you don't have to go one by one and create them. You create one and then you clone, and it's they're all identical, just different names. Um, that's defining the location, all of the location structure. Now going to the biorepository itself, this is where you would actually see where the samples are located, right? So if I go to biorepository here, it gives me the same kind of structure that I've seen before, right? With my freezers and my shelves, and let me expand here, nothing under. So it gives me that location. I can click on each of these locations and I can find what's stored in there. So if I go on shelf 5, I see all of the samples here stored. If I go back to my room, I get all of the samples that are in all of the freezers within this room. I can easily search here by the samples, IDs, or the barcodes. If needed, I can actually have all of this information about the samples stored in here. So you can see the samples in those locations. You can go into the details and see additional information. If there are any documents, you can see the analytical results if you have access to see the analytical results. We also have a set of transactions here that we can perform on these samples, and these transactions are configurable, and if we need to, we can build additional transactions such as aliquoting, splitting the sample, disposing the sample, changing the custodian, adjusting the volume, and so on. All of these transactions are available to be performed. Some of them are also available to perform in batch, such as disposing or pooling certain samples together. One thing you can notice, it will give you here the container, but it also will give you the storage box that the sample is in. So the storage box and the actual location. So this is in this sample is in box 1580 and position B3, right? You can see the content of this box by just clicking it and it will open, but you can also manage the box by doing the storage box option here. And then just scanning the barcode of the box. So let's say you want to place a sample, you open the freezer, or multiple samples, you open the freezer, you pick an empty box or a box that is not full. Then you can click on the storage box. You can scan the box container barcode, and then this way, this will give you the box, which in my case is a 5 by 5. It will give you information where the box is located right here, and it will also give you the fill pattern for this box, which is defined on the material. In my case, is down and across. So that means the sample will go down and then they will go across to be stored. Um, and it also allows me to scan additional samples, and it tells me the next position available. So if I scan a sample, then it will tell me to store it in this location, which is B2 as my next one. I can move samples around if I need to. If the location is not correct, I can save the position. So now my location, my box is the same. I can move the box to a different location. So in that case, the location of all of these samples is going to be changed and updated to the new location. And I can just save this. Uh, that's uh, that's pretty much generally and a high level overview of the biorepository. Obviously, there are some functionality like disposing I mentioned, and initially this view shows everything without um, the samples that are disposed. But if I want to see and I want to be able to search the samples that have been disposed, I can go to all, and now I can get all of the disposed samples that have been distracted. Um, any question, reach out to our support team and they'll be happy to help you.